Let's give it a few minutes.
This meeting is being recorded.
Let everybody get in the room and give it a few minutes here. Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it a few minutes to get everyone in the room. Hello, everyone. We have a good amount of participants. We're just going to give it a few more minutes. People still settling into the room.
So Fareed, before you jumped on, we were talking about your backgrounds. I know we're live, so I'm not going to share anything bad. We were talking about your backgrounds, and every time that you jump on, you're in a different part of the world from your living room.
Yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of travel the next couple of weeks. Nebraska next week, the week after that, New Orleans, and the week after the ISACA conference, and then Arizona. So a lot going on there. All right, we're going to start in about 1 minute. Apologies for the delay, guys. We had some technical difficulties getting on. I still see people coming into the room. All right, guys. Once again, welcome to the Leadership Series. This is a broadcast that's going global. We have quite a few chapters around the world that are signed into meeting with us and learning more about the leadership continuum. We actually have the luxury, I would say, and the benefit of having Chad Reyes be so close to the New York Metropolitan chapter and provide quite a bit of guidance. As you know from the prior videos that we actually have on the website and on YouTube, you know that Chad Reyes not only is the executive of Lions Pride Leadership and IamEmpowering.org, but also Wealth and Legacy Group. He's been around the industry for quite some time. He's personally coached by John C. Maxwell, who, if you recall, was our keynote speaker last year at the gala. By the way, our gala will be in June, and a lot more information will be coming. It's going to be in person. It's going to be in the city. It's going to be amazing. And if you can sign up as soon as we start to release that information, I think you'll really appreciate the location that we've selected. Chad, we understand that the first two went very well. We had a lot of good feedback, both on Jim Ambrosini's discussion, as well as Nigel James. And some of the feedback that we got from globally was really, they were fond of the back and forth at the end with the questions that came in towards the end. So we don't have to take as many pauses as we go through this, but it may make sense, everyone on the call, to keep your questions coming. And as we have that back and forth with Chad and myself, we'll be able to hopefully handle quite a few of them. Chad, without further ado, welcome to this session. This is your call, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have in store for Principle 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Fareed. I'm just excited to be with you, all of you from ISACA. I was just sharing as we were preparing today how it's so encouraging that an organization like yours understands the value of leadership. John Maxwell, my friend and mentor, he says that everything rises and falls on leadership. And today we're gonna be going through the third step. So when Fareed had asked me to be able to help facilitate a lot of this and utilize our 8 steps to developing people. One is that I loved it because my heart is to see people grow, become all that they were designed to be. And today we're going to be talking a little bit further, and I'm honored to be able to go deeper into one of the topics. So we're going to jump in, and John says something so powerful. He says this often. He says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And in the world that we're living in today, it is so true that when we try to talk with our knowledge and we don't connect with our heart, it means nothing. People get shut down, especially today, after COVID. So that quote really resonates with me. But I want to share our master operating system. This is the 8 areas that we talk about with every business. And really, if you think about it, it's that one area that's highlighted that impacts everything in the business. If you have great people, you have a great culture, you have a great organization, it's fun, we're productive, we make things happen. You have bad people, meaning people that are not there for the right reasons. They're just trying to collect a paycheck. It gets very difficult. So today we're going to be talking about the 8 steps, but I just want to kind of recap quickly. So Jim Ambrosini was talking about You Are Here, and basically saying that wherever you are in your leadership journey, no matter where you are, whether you're the CEO of a company or whether you just started at the company, understanding where you are in your leadership influence and where you are with people is so important. And he spoke more about that with his own personal journey. I just remember Jim saying about, how he started in car sales, and then he moved into different other aspects of insurance, and then eventually made it into who he is today, which is a thought leader. And then Nigel James was talking about how important it is to identify the right people on the team, and how important it is to be the right person on the team. And today I'm going to be talking about awareness, how awareness changes everything. My wife and I, for many years, have said this. My wife is also my business partner. And we've said this for so many years, that increased awareness transforms lives. It changes everything. So today I'm going to go much deeper into that. And then in our next continuum, we're going to be talking about the importance of giftedness. How when we're in our area of giftedness, it gives us a competitive edge. And then moving forward, we're going to be talking about style, and how when the condition of the heart is right, then the head, the hand, and the habits follow suit. But when the heart's not right, as a leader, as someone in an organization, it creates a lot of problems. Then the character of a person. You see, the thing I know about character is this. Character will sustain you. Charisma will open the door. And most people use charisma to sustain them, and it just doesn't work. So in one of the future leadership continuums, we'll be talking about character, motivation. Everyone's different. Just like you, I'm very different. What motivates you? What motivates the people on your team? How do we encourage in the area of their motivation? And then lastly, a journey. I've shared this often, that my brother makes the best ribs. And the reason why he makes the best ribs is because of the process he uses. And what happens with me often is I just want to rush to it. So what I'll do is I'll just throw it on the barbecue, throw the barbecue sauce on there. The ribs come out terrible, and I'm frustrated. And I feel like that happens a lot when we're in our leadership journey, when we're developing ourselves, when we're developing people on our team. We just want to get to the end. We want to eat the ribs. We don't want to go through the process. And unfortunately, leadership is a journey. And I want to encourage you to go on that journey with us. So we're gonna move in today specifically to awareness. And in awareness, we talk about the importance of thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and results, right? So thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and results. The thing that I know about beliefs and the thoughts and beliefs is that when our thought life is good and our belief system is good, the results are good. And when we have a bad thought life, when we have a bad belief system, our behaviors, behaviors are the things that we do. And I'm going to go deeper into this today. The things we do creates the results we have in our life. So I'm going to be talking about that, but I want to share a story about a gentleman. I think you'll find this story to be very, very intriguing. So this is someone who, it's a real life story. In 1994, this gentleman, dad had a brain aneurysm. This person what was interesting is that that person who had their dad had a brain aneurysm, and they were shipped from Atlantic City all the way to New York City because New York City had the best neurosurgeon, right? So that was in 1994. This person was probably around 14 at the point. In 96, that same person, their parents get divorced. In 1999, that person's house that they've lived in is foreclosed on. In 2000, that person's family the father declares bankruptcy. In 2001, that person declares, in 1 year, declares financial bankruptcy, has an issue with the FBI, and is arrested for larceny. Okay? I think I'm painting a picture of someone kind of having an interesting life here, right? And then in 2003, this person, something happened to this person. It was awareness, what we're going to talk about today. This person had an encounter. They looked in the mirror one night and they didn't like the person that they were seeing. You know, if you look at what had happened to this person before, it wasn't an easy journey for that person. But what did happen is in 2003, an awareness happened. Something just changed. And now what's interesting is 2006, that person's dad passed away. And that person's dad also had about 60 surgeries. So if you're looking at the story right now, you're probably saying like, this was not probably an easy life. But 2009 shows up. I'm sorry, 2006 shows up. And that person makes a decision that they're gonna make their purpose in life bigger than the problem that they're going through. And then in 2009, they make their best decision they've ever made in their life. In 2011, they make their second best decision. So I wanted to paint a picture for you for a moment, because that person is me. You see, today I lead organizations that influence a lot, but my life was not an easy life. I shared with you in 1994, I'm 14 years old and my dad has a brain aneurysm. My parents get divorced 2 years later. 3 years later, the house is foreclosed on. A couple of years later after that, I'm arrested for arson because I couldn't afford my car. And I was told, just get rid of it. And then someone gave me bad advice. And because my awareness level was very low, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, though. Hear what I just said? All of those struggles that I went through was the best thing that ever happened to me. But when you're going through it, you never, ever believe that it's actually a blessing and not a curse. All this happened, you know, in 2000, I'll give you a little example. In 2001, I'm away at school and I went to SUNY Binghamton. And as I'm in Binghamton, I have a friend of mine who says, Chad, listen, let's go get BB guns. We'll go to Dick's Sporting Goods. We'll get BB guns. So we go to Dick's Sporting Goods. We get BB guns. We're shooting them in the backyard of his house. Then I say, okay, well, you know what? Let's go to my house. Now, my house was I had 15 people while I was away at college. I had 15 people that were on the floor with me that I lived with, friends of mine. And what was interesting was we go to my room and we're shooting a light. Just a light. And we keep missing it. We're trying to hit the street light with this BB gun. Well, you fast forward, I come home the next day and I see a red beam. Literally a red beam in my bedroom. And I'm like, I fell to the floor. I called the cops. And my friend, I called the cops on the FBI. The FBI. Because the building that was behind where that light was was the FBI headquarters in Binghamton, New York. Crazy. Can't make these stories up. What's even crazier is that it's October of 2001. Not even 30 days before that, September 11th had occurred. So they were on high alert. Bad timing, no? But I share the story not because I want you to feel bad. I don't want you to feel bad that my dad went through 60 surgeries over his lifetime. I share the story because awareness is key. In 2003, I looked in the mirror. I was in a basement apartment. And I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I don't like the man that I am today. And some of you may be thinking about that right now. You're saying, you know, I'm a leader. I'm working in corporate America. I just don't like who the person I am. Or I run a team and I just don't like the person I am. The good thing about that is when we're aware of it, we can make a decision that changes the course of our lives. So I want to encourage you that awareness is a game changer. So let's read this. Belief systems are the stories we tell ourselves to define our personal sense of reality. Every human being has a belief system that they utilize, and it is through this mechanism that we individually make sense of the world around us. It's powerful. Think of this. On average, a person has 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. That's powerful, but this is staggering. 80% of them on average are negative. 80% of the things that we allow into our mind are negative. And then not only are they negative, but they're repetitive. 95% of them are the same thoughts that are repeated time and time again. So part of what I want to share with you today is the 8 steps to developing yourself is becoming aware to what's happening around you. You know, when I was that 20-year-old or 21-year-old and I was going through all of that, I didn't realize how bad my thought life was and my belief system. My thought life and my belief system was creating my behaviors and my results. So I'm hoping that today, as we're talking through how you can develop yourself in your career, how you can develop yourself with your family, how you can develop yourself in everything that you're doing, I just want to encourage you that it begins in your thought life. If we don't win the thought life, we don't win the results in our life. Our results are tied to our thoughts and our belief system. So when we think about that, one of the keys to all of this is making your future brighter than your past. You see, if I thought about what had happened to me up until 21 years old, my past would have defined my future. And the great thing about being a leader is we get to make decisions as leaders. I get to make decisions every day, and the decisions that I make me. So I want to encourage you that as you're going through your journey in your career, start choosing more abundant thoughts, because positive thinking is it's more productive. It's you know, think about this for a moment. Just put yourself in this position. You're applying to your dream job. Just think about this. Whether it's in a corporate America, in a family business, wherever it is, you're applying to your dream job or dream career. Okay? It's you and this other person. Now, you and that other person have identical resumes. Everything's identical. Same university, same GPA, extracurricular activities. I mean, everything. But you have a good attitude and you think positive. And this person has a bad attitude and they think negative. All things being equal, who is that organization going to choose? They're going to choose you. They're going to choose the positive thinker. They're going to choose the person who has a good attitude. So my friend, as you're going through your journey, your leadership journey, being aware that we make these decisions in our lives is so key. It's changed my life. I really mean it. It really has changed my life, because I used to have a life and a mindset that was totally out of scarcity. And that day, 2003, I remember the moment. I looked in the mirror in this small little basement apartment, and I said, today I changed my life. Today, I no longer give up. Today, I no longer have a negative attitude every day when I wake up. Today, I'm changing my life. And the great thing about decisions is that we can make them at any point in our life. Here's some statistics behind it, though. You ready? People that are disengaged, people that are not performing at a high level, people that have not the best thought life, they're 37% higher absent from their jobs. 49% of the time, they have more accidents in the workforce. 60% more errors and defects. 100% more job applications for businesses with higher employees, engaged employees. So your attitude, your thought life matters. It really does. It makes all the difference in the world. So I gave you some reasons why you should really engage in step 3, awareness. I want to now equip you, because one thing I don't want to do today is I don't want to share good information. I want to share information that you could apply that would change your life, that would change the way you operate in your business, would change the way you operate at your company, with your family, with your children, with your nieces, your nephews, your friends, okay? The first part here is this. There's 3 stages to our life around belief systems, okay? In the first stage, when we're from age 0 to 10, I'll give you an example of a garage door. When we're infant to 10 years old, the garage door is open wide, which means anything can come in. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. If we're around positive people, then they will shape our belief systems, because what they'll do is their belief systems will become your belief systems. But if they're not good belief systems that we're around, in the first earlier years of our life, those negative thoughts and belief systems become our foundation. And then when you move to age 11 to 30, that garage door that was wide open gets now half shut, meaning stuff still comes in, but not as much as it used to. And then when we get to 31 and older, that garage door gets shut almost to the bottom with a little bit of crack. It's the reason why we've all heard this. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's the reason why that phrase is so prevalent and so real. Because after 30 years old, it's very hard to change our belief system. But the good thing is that you can do it. We can do it, but we need to understand that at infant to 10 years old, we didn't have to try. We didn't have to try, and it happened. But at 31 and older, we have to be very intentional if we wanted to change our belief system that then impacts our behavior, which then changes our results in our life. And that's the reason why awareness is so key, because without awareness, we can't change any of that. So I want to give you a couple of points. People are not born with beliefs. They're learned. They're learned. I love the analogy of tofu. Tofu doesn't have a taste, but it takes the seasoning of anything that you put in the pot with it. So if you put curry in tofu, it takes that seasoning. If you put soy sauce in tofu, it takes that seasoning. People are not born with negative beliefs. People acquire them, and they're learned by observation. They're learned by being around those types of people. And I just want to encourage you that if you have a negative thought life and negative belief system, put yourself around some positive people, it'll start changing things. It did it for me. Beliefs usually develop in childhood or during stressful or traumatic periods in adulthood. And the reason why this is important is right now, in the last 2 years, we've gone through very difficult emotional times with COVID. You know, think about that. You, people on your team leaders, if you're all the team leader, everyone that reports to you, they've been through tough times emotionally. So when they come back to work, they're not the same person they were just in 2009, earlier in the year. They may look the same, but something's changed inside because they had a stressful and traumatic period like all of us did. I don't think there's one person that could say COVID didn't impact them. It literally leveled the playing field. No matter how much money you had, how much influence you had, how many friends you had, how many friends you didn't have, it leveled the playing field. The thing about beliefs is that if we don't believe that belief, we usually ignore that belief. Think about this. When you have something that you don't agree with or believe in, and it hits you and it comes directly in contact with you, you resist it or you ignore it. My friend, anything that you resist will persist and will continue until you learn the lesson. And that has been prevalent in my life and anyone you look at that's ever done anything of success, they usually go through this process. They test something, it doesn't work. So they test, they fail. From the failure, they learn. When they learn, then they make it better, they improve. And then they re-enter again, and then they test again. So a lot of times, though, when our belief system says, I know everything, we test, we're scared to fail, so we test very frequently, not very rarely. We don't learn, we don't improve, we don't re-enter. Or, worst case, we test, we fail, we don't learn, we don't improve, and then we re-enter. That's even worse because now we're just going back in with the same mindset. So we need to challenge our belief systems. And that's why the step 3 of 8 steps to developing people, awareness, is so important, because in awareness, it changes everything. You know, think about a blind spot in a car. A blind spot is only a blind spot because you didn't see it. If you saw that blind spot, you wouldn't have went into that road and gotten hit by that truck. The only reason why you got hit by that truck because it was a blind spot. And we have blind spots in our life. And that's what, as we increase our emotional intelligence and awareness, we're able to recognize blind spots that have been holding us back in our life, in our career. Because all of us have great potential inside of us. It's just understanding what area that we've been called to, what area of giftedness do we have. We all have great potential. Every one of you in your organization can provide more value in your strength. Negative beliefs are not necessarily true, even if they feel true. More often than not, the things that we fear, there's a study that I read, 95 to 98% of the things that we actually fear never actually happen. So we spend so much energy and time fearful, and that thing is 95 to 98% of the time not going to happen. Well, the great thing though is our beliefs can be changed. They don't have to be forever. Remember, we all have that moment, hopefully, in our lives. And I had it at 23 that changed my life. When I recognized where I was going was not where I wanted to go. My actions, my belief system, my thoughts, my behaviors were all leading to a life that I didn't want. And the results were showing up. until I changed something. You know, the picture that we have of ourselves, our self-concept, always determines how we respond to life. So the reason why awareness is so key is because think of this for a moment. If you don't value yourself or others, then you won't add value to yourself or others. It's only when we value people and we value ourselves that we'll actually want to add value to people. So the picture we have of ourselves will then it will literally determine how we're going to react in life. And I've seen it in my journey. I've seen it in my life how important it is to understand that you're valuable. There's something that you bring to the table that not many people can. You know, the gentleman Miles Monroe here, I heard him. He's no longer with us. He passed away, I think, in 2014. But I heard him speak one time, and he was sharing about where the wealthiest part of the world is. And I just want to challenge you for a moment. Where is the wealthiest part of the world? Just think. I'm going to give us 30 seconds just to really think through that question. Where is the wealthiest part of the world? Where is that wealthiest part of the world? And he said this. He said, the wealthiest part of the world is the cemetery. Because in the cemetery is where all the dreams, the hopes, the books, the businesses, the lives that you were supposed to impact, it's where they died. He said, and my job is to speak into your life today and tell you to rob the grave and die empty. Just give everything you have. So if you were designed to grow to be this top corporate executive, then do it. You have it in you. If you were designed to build a business, then go ahead and do it. If you were going to, if you had a book that you were going to write, go ahead. But understand that everything you and I want is on the other side of difficult. You know, I coach organizations, I coach CEOs, I coach their leaders, and I hear this all the time. Oh man, I can't get them to do it. I can't get my team to move forward. I can't. And really what happens is it's a limiting belief system, because to go up, we got to give up. You can't keep going up without giving up. You got to give up certain things to continue to grow. And awareness says that I'm aware that my thought life, and I'm going to come back to that slide for a moment. Hold on. This slide right here. But awareness says that my thought life impacts my belief system. So I'm just gonna kind of go deeper into this for a moment. The things that I put into my mind. So the books that I read, the people that I surround myself with, the movies that I watch, and the music that I listen to. And I'm sure there's other things, but I'm just kind of highlighting the 4 things. That impacts my thought life, who I am as a person. Then my thought life impacts my belief system. And there's only 2 types of belief systems, at least I believe. And I mentioned it earlier, there's a scarcity belief system, which says there's not enough and operates in lack. And there's an abundance mindset and belief system, which says there's more than enough and I operate in surplus. So when we look at our belief system, we go either to one or the other. But our belief system then, now this is the great thing, and I'm going to give you a real life example on here. Our belief system then impacts our behavior, the things we do every day that then changes the results. And years ago, I had a coach of ours, my wife and I, who was coaching me. And he said, Chad, your issue is you don't like selling. I said, what do you mean I don't like selling? He goes, you don't like selling. He said, but It's a belief issue. For some reason, you believe that selling's a bad thing. And quite frankly, at the time, I was resisting him, but it was true. And then he said something that really impacted me. He said, I want you to replace the word sales with help. Instead of saying how many clients did I sell, you said how many people or clients did I help? He said, because you naturally want to help people. He said, so if you can understand that the only way you can help them is when you get them to move forward with your product or your service, he said, it'll change the game. And in that year, that one little shift, because that one little shift addressed my belief system. In that 1 year, I had a 500% increase from the previous year. And because what it was is, he wasn't training me on techniques and behaviors. He was teaching me that everything we want in our life has to be first addressed at a belief system issue, which is the awareness side of it, before the results change. And it changed the game for me, so much so that my wife and I wanted to get into business and teach these principles to other leaders so that they can have their lives impacted the same way my life was impacted. Which now leads me to this last part. Let me just get to that. To have the results we want in our life, it requires us to be in our strength. We got to be in that, I call it my area of giftedness. This is the area that I do better than anyone else. And as in organizations, a lot of the times, whether it's you or whether it's people that you lead, we have people operating in weaknesses. And I just want to give you this analogy for a moment. In our area of our weakness, we start at poor. And the best we can ever get in an area of our weakness is average. But in an area of strength or giftedness, we start at average with the ability to get to excellent. So if we're ever going to change the results that we have in our life, let's say we want abundant results. Abundant results only happens when we operate in giftedness. Because we'll never be able to give that example of dying empty, meaning we gave everything we had inside in a weakness. It only happens in strengths. And the thing that you and I both know is that we don't pay for mediocrity. Clients don't hire you to be mediocre. I never heard someone say, I want a mediocre financial advisor. I never heard anyone say, I want a mediocre restaurant. I'm hoping the food's not that good. Just okay. No, people want things that are good. And things that are good means that we got to be in our strength. So for the results to change, we go back to that analogy I was giving before, which is thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, results. For the results to change in our life, the belief system has to be that we operate in strengths. And when we operate in strengths, then the results change positively. When we operate in weaknesses, the results are poor. And, I shared with you earlier my journey, because it was really what I went through. And for so many years of my life, I was operating in strengths, I was operating in weaknesses, and I was operating at a scarcity and fear. And then fast forward, I started realizing that, one, it's not enjoyable. Two, it's never going to get you to where you want to go in life. And three, people don't pay for that. People pay for excellent. People pay for good and great. And it shifted. And I started operating in my strength. I started recognizing my strength. And the reason why I did that is this is one of the assessments we utilize. And when I'm working with team members, when I'm working with our own team, when I'm working with clients, my goal is to address their belief system around hiring and working with people in their giftedness, not just hiring people to hire. And what I would say to you today is, whether you're a leader of a team, whether you're part of a team, whether you're the CEO of the organization or anywhere in between, if we get people in their giftedness and their strengths, it changes the game, because they're happy, they're enjoying it. And the world that we're living in right now, that world is saying that I'm not willing to show up every day at work anymore and just be miserable just for a paycheck. That's what every study is showing me, is that people want purpose, they want significance, they want to feel fulfilled. And fulfillment comes from an area of giftedness. So I just wanted to share that with you. I hope this was valuable. Last thing I wanted to share is on our website, we have leadership articles, we have videos, but if you go to our website right here, well, if you go to our website and you hit enter, and then you click on articles, it'll bring you to this area, and you can be able to register and get free leadership articles every week. You know, this is not us going to hit you with marketing and try to get you with a ton of, you know, sales. This is purely every week we put out a leadership article. Those are the last 3 weeks. We put out a leadership article just to add value to people's lives, to make a difference, to help them grow and develop themselves, right? And then every week we also do a short little video, 3 to 5 minutes, that's encouraging and challenging. So if you found this to be valuable and you really would like to continue down your leadership journey, go on there, put your first name, last name, and email. That's all the information they're going to ask for. But you'll be able to get every week real valuable leadership content that can help make a difference. And ultimately, like we started today, increase your awareness, because when our awareness increases, everything else changes. Thank you for spending time with me, Fareed. I don't know if you had some questions, if you want to open it up, but I'm just happy and grateful to be here with you guys.
Thank you for that, Chad. That was really insightful. We have quite a few people that have joined. Start to put your questions in the Q&A. I saw a few come through already. Read them off in a minute here. One came in here. What specific, okay, I think this goes back to your earlier slides here, but what specific event provided you the need, in capital letters, for awareness required to be successful?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Fareed. The pain. If I could be real with everyone, it was pain. It hurt so much. Fareed, you and I know each other since I'm 19. It was pain. There was nights that I would go home and I would be crying because I was in emotional pain, because I was operating out of fear. I was operating out of doubt. Remember, I said 21 years old, I went financially bankrupt. So I was dealing with, I'm not good enough. So what happened for me, to answer that question, was the pain was so severe that I made a decision that I wasn't going to stay in that spot anymore. I was going to change. And that was that, remember I mentioned at 23, the pain was so bad that I needed to change because I couldn't experience more pain. And unfortunately, pain is a very good motivator if we know how to utilize pain to get breakthrough.
It's funny you said that, because there's an expression, you know, with anxiety as well, of kind of riding anxiety like a magic carpet. You know, it could either tear you down and pull you into depression, or it could actually give you the energy, uncanny energy, to take you to the next levels. So I believe you on that. And you did come in with a very, very unique perspective much earlier on, when you mentioned, you know, your father with the aneurysm and all the stuff that was going on, and divorce, and that was a lot going on there. And then you talk about financial ruin at the same time, showing a mental state. There's a lot going on there. I see a lot of these questions are aligned to that. So, wow, there are a lot of questions coming in right now. So
I'm ready.
Let's go top to bottom. So another one was this is according to a slide. Maybe we should have stopped it then. But how does someone re-engage to limit percentages disclosed? So there's a slide on re-engagement, I recall, and I think they're talking about how does someone re-engage to limit the percentages of damage that could happen to them?
So let me just go back to that slide for a moment. Hold on. I think this is what you were alluding to. Hold on 1 second. That one, right?
Right here. Yeah, this the re-engagement slide.
Yeah. So the simplest way is this. There's a lot of complexity here, but the simplest way is this. Value people and add value to people. See, if we value them, then they're going to feel cared for. They're going to feel appreciative. They're going to feel like they matter. And then when we add value to them, we're going to make them bigger. We're going to make them better. I just think that leaders don't do enough of that, Fareed. I think that a lot of leaders think that because they got a title, that's good enough. That's not the case. We don't live in this world where a title is good enough anymore. And I think that to really reduce those numbers substantially, just value them and add value to them, and you will see those numbers drop tremendously.
So I'm gonna ask a question of myself on this one. It's more tangential, but there's been this major discussion in executive roundtables I come across with participation trophies and everyone having an award and whatnot. So if a manager goes out there and tries to continually massage the ego of someone on the team to make them feel engaged, to make them feel that they're appreciated, where's that fine line between overdoing it and lack of performance on their end? Meaning having them almost settle because they feel that they're doing much better than they actually are.
Yeah. So I think to your point, I think we're living in a world right now that often we want people to feel good rather than be good. That's the difference. If we want to be honest, though, Fareed, we're living in a world that people rather feel good than actually be good. And be good means we have difficult conversations. Be good means we don't always give a trophy to everyone, but be good means we value the people, we value them. But feel good, if we're building a company culture that is all around feeling good, then what happens is that when they don't feel good, you become the villain. We need to create a culture that rewards people for positive behaviors, not just for showing up. And we're unfortunately, we're living in that culture. And what happens is that when we reward someone for something, we get more of that, right? So like if I reward you for showing up on time, well, then you're going to say, well, I want to show up on time the next day and the next day. But if I reward you for not showing up on time, oh, let me, right now, let me just write a check to you because I need someone to show up. Well, you're actually saying that I'm going to continue to perpetuate bad behaviors. So
yeah, no, that's really good, because now go on the converse of that. If someone is, and I see some people giving some more background on this specific one. Let's just say someone is, you put a tremendous amount of investment in someone. Yeah. You've taken care of these individuals that have been doing it. It's been happening a lot. People have been burnt out. Some people are showing up and they're trying to do what they can.
Yeah.
But it comes to a point where you need to reprimand them. How do you reprimand them without getting them to a point where they actually do give up, or they do get pushed into a corner where they just don't want to deal with it anymore? Where's that fine line?
My friend, you just asked a powerful question, because I know there's people on the call that are thinking that. So this is, I'll share with you how I do it. I have two things. When I'm speaking to a team member or when I'm speaking to a client, I look at things through a role and identity. Okay. So case in point is the role is that person and their specific responsibility in that company. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a salesperson, right? And they're not performing well. That's their role. A lot of leaders, though, what they do is they speak to the identity of the person and not the role. So I'll give you an example. You speaking to the identity is you suck, you're terrible, you're never gonna do anything, you're not good. That's speaking to the identity of that person. Good leaders are able to identify the difference between the person's role as being a salesperson in the company and then being a dad. And they never confuse the two. They speak to roles, not identity. Bad leaders speak to identity and not role. Good leaders understand that. So they are very clear that they create healthy boundaries saying, listen, Fareed, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a salesperson, Fareed, in a company. And I say Fareed, listen, I wanted to get together with you to talk. And I value you tremendously. I mean, the thing that I appreciate about you is you're always on time. You're always showing up. You put in the work, but I do need to speak to you about performance-wise. While you are showing up, the results are not happening. So how can we address that? Is there something going on personally that I can address? Can I get you some training and to develop the skill set? That's a very different approach than you're just not producing. I don't understand. Get the sales up, get the numbers up. Because now you're starting to degrade the person instead of encourage the person. And role versus identity is very key. For me, I do my best. I'm human, but I do my best to give people a 10 in their identity. And the reason why I give them a 10 in their identity is because, and I'm a person of faith, so I'm not sharing this to push it on other people, but God, they built in his image. So I'm going to give them a 10 for that reason alone. And then I'm going to speak to how they're operating in their role, but I'm going to encourage them because I know who they really are as a 10. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I think we could have a whole session on that. We'll probably bring it to next leadership. There's a lot to that, and I know there's a lot of questions around it. Michael Monahan just wrote in the chat to say that he'd offer up that it's about quote unquote, what can I get from my people versus quote unquote, how can I help my people position. You don't have to lower expectations, but clarify, talk to the people operating on the ground, what they need to do to meet a goal. So it kind of aligns with what you were just saying just now. And then Louisa echoed something you said through Tony Robbins: change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. I remember reading that a while back too. Really good point. A few questions came in here. Some of them are the same, so I'm going to consolidate them, but one of them is, can you discuss how to lead individuals that are not self-aware?
Yeah. So the first thing is understanding that the person who has the highest level of awareness is responsible for that relationship.
Okay.
That's the first part. Yep. Because if we're expecting someone who has a lower level of awareness to be responsible for the relationship, then what we're doing is we're passing our leadership mantle and saying, no, you take it and you're responsible for it. So as a leader, we have to take responsibility that if it's not going the way we want it to go, and we have a higher level of awareness, understanding our emotions and emotional intelligence, then we're responsible for that relationship, and we got to do what we got to do to make it right.
That's very good. We have a few that kind of line right into that. These are interesting questions. So this now goes with intuition and training. So do we ever have to question our own intuition in order to train it and be more aware? And then just like that is, when do you know that your awareness is fine-tuned correctly? What are the signs?
Yeah. So say the first question again.
Do we ever have to question our own intuition in order to train it and be more aware?
Yeah, so intuition is a gift that each of us have. Some have it better than others. So the one thing, like I mentioned to you earlier about my wife, is my wife has a high level of intuition. So case in point, she could walk into a room and just intuitively see things that others can't see that's happening in that room. So part of us being a good leader is knowing, do we have a high level of intuition? And if we don't, that's okay. Then who on our team has a high level of intuition, right? And if we don't have anyone on our team that has a high level of intuition, then we say who in our network has a high level of intuition. I think a lot of times leaders think that they have to have all the answers and all the intuition, but we can lean on people who have that giftedness that maybe I don't have or you don't have. And my wife in my life has been that intuition person because she has a high level of intuition. And it sounds like this, Chad, I feel like, when she starts saying, I feel like, I know her intuition is picking up on something that maybe I didn't see.
It's a very, very good point. I mean, so it sounds like it's like a giftedness, something that you have. So is there a way to, going back to awareness, how would you know that if your awareness is fine-tuned correctly? What are the signs? How do you know that you're getting there? Obviously with you, there's a whole bunch of things impacting you in your timeline at a specific point, and the pain was so great that when there was less pain, you felt better. But then again, some people go into bad habits to avoid that pain, whether it's kind of pushing it away or turning to drugs or whatever the case may be. Like, how do you find that? How do you know that you've made it through it in a positive way? Like, what are the signs? How do you fine tune it?
Well, the first thing with intuition is that when we're being intuitive, so let me take a step back. Intuition has to also line up with timing. So you can't be intuitive and not have good timing, because intuition is saying, okay, something's happening here, right? Something's happening with this employee. Something's happening with my workforce. Something's happening with my organization. So it's okay to recognize intuition, but then we also have to add it with timing, when to move, when and how to navigate, right? A lot of people can feel something, but then they don't know how to put timing with it. They really, someone who's very high in intuition usually is also pretty good with timing around what they're feeling.
Very good response. There are two last questions here that we'll try to close down quickly so we can move on to what the fourth principle will be and get into that. How do you balance planning for the future and being present for your employees? That's one question. And then what has been one of your biggest challenges as a leader? Also, what do you think are some of the best ways that leaders can support other leaders? So first one is, how do you balance planning for the future and being present for your employees?
Yeah. So the first thing I do, I actually just had this conversation with one of our clients. So we were just talking about that. And what I do is I allocate, I call it glue. This is time to keep everything together. So I block out time on my calendar every week. I time block it to have meetings that help keep everything together, moving the ball forward, keeping the organizations and keeping everyone communicating well. That's what I call our glue, right? But that requires intentionality. And I think a lot of people have good intentions, but they're not intentionally good. The good intention says, I'll block that time out, but intentionally good actually blocks it out and then doesn't, right? So I think we need to move from good intentions and then move to intentionally good, and making sure that when we put it in the calendar, we actually show up, because it may be one of the most important meetings that we have that week.
It's a powerful insights. And then what has been your biggest challenge as a leader? What do you think are some of the best ways leaders can support other leaders?
Yeah, so my biggest challenge for Reed as a leader, and I'm very open on this, is that as a leader, earlier in my career, and I've gotten better with it, the vision was more important than the people. So I had a vision of where we wanted to go. That vision could be a project you're working on, or it could be a future growth of your organization. So I had a vision of where I wanted to go. And what happened was I put the vision and I made it more important than the people. And that was a challenge, a major challenge in my leadership that I've gotten over. But every once in a while, it still peeks its ugly head. And I have to kind of like get rid of it and say, listen, the vision doesn't happen without my people. The vision never happens if I don't put my people first.
Well said on that point. I mean, one of the biggest things I come across here myself is it's trying, you're trying to do your job, you're trying to manage others, and with the different dynamics from a mental standpoint over the last 2 years. You mentioned this earlier on, people not being the same earlier in 2019 than they are now, trying to work at that speed, work with the different types of folks coming in. So it's very, very diverse working group that's come into the work world. Very different personalities. A lot of different people have a different definition of success. So when you're trying to meet that, when you're trying to engage folks virtually and not in person, there's a lot there. So a lot of folks right now have been in the field for 2.5 years now, and still have not met their employees in person. As crazy as that is. So there are a lot more questions coming in here. I want to be cognizant of the time. So we'll answer one more here, hopefully, and then get into giftedness, which I believe it's awesome that we came out of intuition, and I think that'll play a little bit into what you and John talk about on our next session 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Last question here is, as an organization gets larger, there can be a tendency for the institution to dampen the inspiration. How do you keep this from happening? So I guess this is, I actually see alignment here with this question. Organizations getting too big, losing that family feel. How do you maintain the inspirational aspect of things?
Yeah, so that's a perfect question, because we created something called our business model alignment. Okay, we call it our BMA, business model alignment. And what it is, the first thing is the purpose. What's the purpose of the organization? Why does the organization exist? The second is, what is the vision for the organization? The third is, what are the values that we're going to live by, that we're going to reward, we're going to retain, and we're going to equip people based on these values? What's the giftedness of our team? And then what is the strategy that helps us accomplish it? And what happens often is, as we get bigger, we focus on strategy and we get away from purpose, vision, values, and giftedness. So what I would say is if we get very clear on what the purpose of the organization is, and what the vision is, and what the values are, and what the giftedness is, the strategy becomes very clear and very easy. And as organizations grow, and as they go from hundreds to thousands to hundreds of thousands, not everyone is clear on what those are. And if I can just give a word to that person who asked that question, is the clearer you define what the reason why that business exists, the purpose and the vision and the values, everyone will rally around that, and you'll attract people who believe what you believe, instead of trying to get people who don't believe what you believe to accomplish the strategy, which now it's kind of, you're dragging them rather than leading them.
That's wow, very, very deep. I had some really complimentary comments about your response just now come through. I'm just going to read two things that came in through Linda and Michael, and then we'll go into hopefully just a brief preview into giftedness, if you don't mind, and we can close down. So Linda Cheng says, I have used role and identity to encourage the person to be more influential with better awareness for self-identity, higher than the limits created by the role. In other words, leadership can come from all rank and file than the person in the role.
Love it.
That's
good.
Insightful.
Yeah.
Another one from Michael was switching to quote unquote hosts and panelists to avoid talking too much, but suggesting learning of self-awareness or EQ, trying to rerun a conversation and play it on the other person's part. It is easy to assign ill intent to other, but pricing yourself in that situation helps remove assumptions of ill intent. No one is the villain of their own story. It is helpful, independent homework and a self-assessment exercise. These are good insights, guys.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's good.
Really good stuff. So Chad, you've been amazing. You've had a response to everything. It's comprehensive. We always look forward to these. Honestly, it's like we pencil them in every 2 months. Hopefully we can get this in a much closer fashion. I know you're working with the talent and talent team. Basically, it's more in the certification side of the house. You're going to be having a continuum with Kwang Mei, To, and Lance, breaking out individual perspectives and driving leaders through the ISACA chapter. So yeah. if folks are interested, that'll be a continuum that gets broken out with the Lions Pride leadership. Will be running that independently. We'll be running it through the ISACA channel, but once again, it'll be Chad and team driving those. I strongly encourage you guys to join. The pricing will be subsidized to make that work, both on the ISACA side and on Lions Pride, to try this pilot out, if you guys are interested. So Chad, with the last few minutes we have to 12:45, if you don't mind giving us some perspective on what the next leadership principle is that we'll be talking about in 2 months. I believe John will be leading that, and what some of the coverage points will be. Yeah,
Fareed, I just want to take 1 minute to wrap up this, and then I'll share on this. So the thing with awareness, it's all about emotional intelligence. Person who has a higher level of emotional intelligence is more aware. Okay, and I want to paint a visual for you before we jump into the next continuum. Picture taking a heart and a brain and they're holding hands. That's what awareness really is. It's having a high level of emotional intelligence, but also being high in smarts intellect. So you take your IQ and your EQ and they hold hands. That's what awareness really is. So if there's people that say, I want to grow in my awareness, well, the way that you do that is you become more of an effective leader. I mean, you can go get our articles every week. It's going to increase your emotional intelligence. There's no doubt about it. But it's where the heart and the brain hold hands and walk together, not just the brain walking, meaning I'm just smart, and not the heart, meaning I'm just caring. It's when both of them come together, that's where you see change. And then the second thing is that I'm excited for giftedness. I'm excited that my partner John is going to be sharing on giftedness, Fareed, because one, he's the one that does all the leadership assessments for our organization. And the thing about giftedness is that giftedness unlocks potential. Think of that. We all have potential inside of us. The difference is some people tap that potential, some people don't. And in 2 months from now, we're going to be talking about giftedness and talking about how to untap the potential that's inside of you. And the way that you do that is you stay in the things that you're gifted at. And I'll just give you a little teaser before we wrap up. Giftedness is comprised of competency, passion, and style. So you're passionate about it, you're competent in it, and others perceive you to be walking in it. That's where giftedness aligns. And when we are passionate about something and competent and others recognize it, now we're in our area of strength. That's our gift. And then I would encourage you then, once you find the gift, you spend the rest of your life refining the gift. Because the refining of the gift is what makes you valuable in the workplace. Not the gift itself, the refining of the gift, because then you're able to bring it to people and create tremendous value for them in their life. So I just want to encourage you to join us on our next one. It's going to be about 2 months from now. You'll be getting all the information. And my partner, John, is going to be talking about the importance of giftedness to your development. And Fareed, thank you so much for having us today.
Oh, thank you. You made a good point, and it jogged something. We have like a few minutes here. Let's say is on awareness. You know, a lot of recent things happened to me too over the last 2 years. You're aware of some of the personal stuff that has happened in the past. But one of the big things I would say is, and this came, believe it or not, from one of my bosses that came down. It was something that was said, right? There's a few things with awareness, both, especially in the workplace, I could actually give out, and something I learned later in life, I guess you could say. You can never unsay or undo something that you do, right? It seems like common sense, but when things are happening, we're going with emotion. And as of late in the last 2 years, a lot has been, we're all emotionally driven. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? The second you wake up in the morning, before your feet touch the floor, you have a feeling. You're going through a shower, you have a feeling. You come out, you have a feeling. We're feeling people, right? We're human beings. And over the last 2 years, I think a lot of us have kind of tapped into that, like what that means to us. So before we react to someone, I know they say, you know, treat people a certain way because you don't know what they're going through and that whole mentality. But your actions cause reactions. And if we can temper that, if we can temper that to a certain extent, we can't unsay it. So if we have to sit back on something and think about it or get ourselves together before saying the wrong thing, that's a huge part of, call it immediate awareness, your inner circle. Those are really, really big things. And if you start to foresee things going down a very, very slippery slope, bad news travels twice as fast as good news, right? And you want to make sure that if you say something, is another one I learned over the last couple of years. If you don't say something, it's your problem. If you tell your team, you tell your boss, it's our problem, and we'll solve that together. Over the last 2 years, we've gotten into this mentality that we all have to do it. It's all on us. Everything's on us. We can only do it this way. And I think we've noticed with the grand resignation, and I'm calling it the grand migration because people aren't truly resigning. They're just swapping to different areas across the industry.
That's true.
The businesses are still doing well. So we can't say it's all on us, right? We have to be honest with ourselves that we have huge impact. We're all important. We're very important for what we do.
Mm.
But we need to know where we kind of stand in the grand scheme of this big puzzle. So Chad, thank you for really wrapping that up today. That was an awesome session. Looking forward to you and John in 2 months. Thank you for everything.
I just want to say this, Fareed.
Yeah.
Your actions cause reactions. That's my biggest takeaway from today. That was awesome. Good stuff, man.
I appreciate you. You seriously, very big insights. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks, guys.
All right. Be well, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, Chad.